One, this journal is a journal that I made following Nik the Booksmith's Deserted Islands challenge. I really like Nik the Booksmith. I love to watch her videos. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link below to the challenge videos, and then you really need to check out a lot of her others, or all of her others, because she's just super creative and fun. But anyway, I was going through a real dry spell. This is perfect timing for me. I was going through a real dry spell with my creating, and I am a junkie when it comes to any kind of crafting, art, supplies, and tools. It's the only thing I spend money on. I have, my husband calls my little art area the laboratory, and he says he's afraid to come in here. But anyway, I was going through a real dry spell, and I thought, wow, this sounds like such a good challenge for me to just sit down with basically 8 items. I did the video for my choices for the 8 items. Didn't realize till I had the journal halfway full that the video wasn't any good. So I just put a picture at the beginning showing the items that I used, since I'd already started and I couldn't go back and undo it. Anyway, the Deserted Island Challenge, you'd have very limited, like 8 items. A paper, thread and needle, with a needle is considered one item, glue, one type of glue, and something to cut with. And then you had 4 other choices. You could make whatever you want. Now, so I had this book that I had bought at maybe a Dollar General or Dollar Tree one, and I liked the cover colors, and I liked the size of it. So I thought, well, I'll just use this, and that way I don't have to completely cover it and have to use a paper or a cloth or a fabric or whatever to cover it with. That's one of my choices. I did go through and do some, the paper I chose was gray. I think it's real hard to see on camera, but it is a pale gray paper. I just liked it with these colors. I used, for my other choices, inks. I used 2 colors of distress ink pads, aged Mahogany and chipped Sapphire, and I used a distress marker in peeled paint. It's the green. And I made myself just completely, I used the edge of the book if I needed a straight edge. Like if I needed, to tear most of the paper, and here's torn, even though I had scissors, most of it's torn. Made used this for the straight edge. I did a lot of, well, not a lot, I did some doodling, kind of like just doodle, and it's crooked. It's not, nothing is centered, nothing is, the only thing, like I cut this out with my scissors, and I folded the paper to cut it, so that's fairly even, but the drawing's not. The word journal's not. None of these little designs on these little corners are even. And I don't care. It was just fun to do. And I caught myself, several times reaching for this or that, stamp or tool or whatever, thinking, I want to do this. But no, I stopped and said, no, I can't do that. So anyway, it's a hidden binding. I just went at it with abandon. I really didn't care what, I cared what it looked like, but I didn't, I wasn't really worried. Usually when I start a journal, I'm thinking about, in the back of my mind, that I want to sell it. So I want to make sure that, there's no little glue spots anywhere. There's no little ink spots anywhere. All my stitching is just on point. And this time I thought, no, I'm just going to go with this. So I tore all the pages throughout here. Each signature, there are 6 signatures, and each signature begins and ends with these just kind of angled tears. And everywhere except for the center of the book, I turned them into pockets. In the center here somewhere, I just left these loose as pages. See, I did a little doodle there and there. So I used the pieces of paper that I had torn out, and a few pieces of that I had extra to make the little things I tucked in here and there. I thought I'd do some embroidery stitches. The floss that I used, I guess you could actually say this is vintage, because it is literally floss that I used back in the 80s and early 90s when I did kind of cross stitch, and I've used it. I've had it ever since. I had it in storage for years. Pulled it out about a year or so ago and started using it. French knots, I thought, oh, I'll do these little French knot flowers. They were never my strong point when I did any kind of embroidery. I haven't done them for years. They're not my strong point now, but there they are. I ended up gluing them down because they wouldn't stay. But anyway, I had that idea. Pocket, there's 2 pockets here. Yeah, there's 2 pockets here and here. See, crooked lines on the tag. Didn't matter. It's just for me. And a few just little tucked in here and there places to make notes with. I used a few of these pieces that I had torn off. I glued them together to make little journaling cards. Again, my skills in embroidery. Arthritis is a nasty thing to have, I swear, people. If you don't have it, you pray that you never do. But this is another little booklet that I made with torn pieces. The stitching, I couldn't get the stitching tight, so I pulled it over to the side and knotted it over here with some more floss just to tighten it up a little. Gave it a little extra. And there's just the journaling card. A card that I used my distress marker and the ink blending tool that Nick generously said we could use if we had used the ink pad. Thank you, because I don't think I could have survived without that. I probably could have, but it wouldn't have been nice. How would I have done all these edges? And I don't know. Anyway, I used the same floss for the sewing in the signatures. Another crooked line tag. Little booklet. Just a few little pieces of spare extra paper sewn together. Gosh, I tried to get real creative with this just to see what I could do with folded paper. So the front and the back both have a flap to fold out. Now this is where I started getting in. Oh man, I wanted to use a stamp, or I actually intended to go back and doodle on this, and I haven't done it. Probably will, but I had stopped myself because I was thinking stamp here, a pretty little printed page in here, peeping through. No, don't do it, don't do it. You don't have the stuff. There's that on the back. Let's see. All the actual signature pages I pretty much left. I don't think I did anything to any of those. Very bare. Another trying to get creative with folding paper. I'm not an origami artist by any means, and this proves it. That was just 2 of the torn apart. And another just plain piece of paper. To make my cards, I actually glued pieces of this paper together, so this is what looks kind of bumpy, but that gave the ink something to cling on to. Okay, I tried to get real creative here again, and I put these pieces together, layered them together, sewed them, folded the front over, and then did a little doodle. I think that's about, oh no, oh, here we're getting into the, I used to do lettering, but again, arthritis, I just don't have the dexterity in my hands. I used to make jewelry. I just don't have the dexterity in my hands anymore to do those things. So I was working on this, and I thought, well, I'd love to do something that looks like one of those old advertisements in the lettering. And I thought, this marker has a brush tip on it. It might actually work for brush lettering. Well, first of all, I never mastered that when I was able to do lettering. So I just sat down and started writing on this piece that I had done. And this was the result. And I wasn't even going to put this in this video to show it. I was just going to scrap it. After I saw the writing, I thought, no, don't like this. You know, and I tried to do some other little swirls and ribbons, and I thought, I'm just going to throw this away. Nah, yeah, I'm just going to just stick it in there. Something for me to look back at and say, what was I thinking? Here's a little booklet. This one's glued. This one's not stitched. And another just plain card. Paper folding. Something to write on. And this is just, I didn't even get around to inking this one. It's just another piece of the paper that I've glued together. I think 2 sheets of paper to use as a card, and that's as far as that one got. But I think I'm calling it done. And I did try, and you can't even, I can't even see it with my glasses on. I took the fine tip with the point of the marker and did little swirlies all up and down, just in a single row. And you can't see it. The ink just kind of soaked into the book, and you can't see it. But anyway, don't know how to thank you enough, Nick, for coming up with this challenge. It was wonderful for me. It was just the boost I needed, the kick I needed, and I'm on a roll now, creating again. So everybody go to see Nick's page and show her some love. Thanks. Bye.